Good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our 9/11 Emergency Summer Series. And as you know, if you've been following us, I am Dr. Catherine E. James, and I've been put on this earth to help people live their potential. And I am tremendously grateful to God for that giftedness that's in my life. One way that I'm doing it is that I sponsor, facilitate, foster transforming life conversations where we can simply come together and be, not pretend, not put on air, not wear masks, just be ourselves, because beloved, that's sufficient enough. Us as we are is sufficient enough. It doesn't mean that we don't need to keep growing and expanding and increasing. Of course we do. But the starting place is simply being, it is in that place where we can be authentic and transparent. So welcome to our conversation this evening, where we have emergent conversations about what's happening right now, the relevant conversation, the relevant notion that we need to bring to the forefront and have life-giving, authentic conversations around it. And so that's what we're going to do this evening. As you know, we have looked at first responders. We have looked at nurses that are right on the front line. We have talked to individuals who have had COVID-19 and who have in the stage of recovery. We have talked we've had girlfriend conversation where we just talked from the Maya Angelou's poem where we talked about Still I Rise. We have covered the gamut of conversations, mothers of Black sons, really some dynamic conversations we've had throughout the summer. Originally, as for those of you who may have noticed that our schedule changed a little bit, originally we were going every week because it was necessary. We were in the house. We were not going many places because of COVID-19. Well, we adjust with the times, right? And so as the summer increased and more of the state opened and other states opened, then we also took that as our cue that we were no longer needed every Friday. This came out of need. This came out of a need for there to be life-giving, relevant conversations where those of us who are at ground zero of whatever the topic is, where we can come and have that. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we talked about fitness, physical fitness, and fitness in our nutrition. So our nutrition and our physical fitness. And so this week, beloved, we are talking about education. We're talking about school, academics. We are looking at what does school look like amid COVID-19. Now, look, we've never been here before, not ever, because COVID-19 hasn't been with us before. So we've never been at this place before, beloved, in COVID-19. And we've never been in it as it relates to education. So this is a relevant conversation. How do we do education amid COVID-19? Tonight, I am blessed to have with me, of course, our resident self-care specialist, Joy P. Creel. I have her with me, and she is here every time we come together every 2 weeks. And so I got off subject there, as I sometimes will if I don't pay attention to my notes and things like that. That's just part of me being transparent. I have to have notes. But so we have Miss Joy Creel, who is with us tonight, and she, as always, comes to us from her knowledge base, from her skill set of self-care. How do we integrate self-care in all that we're doing? And in addition, we have three special guests who are all educators from their own different walks of life. And we have two that are from the Midwest or metropolitan Detroit area. And then we have one that's coming from all the way from Illinois. So we have Mr. Chiki Bracy, who just happens to be my pastor, my nephew, my godson. Welcome, Chiki.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And then we have Miss Crystal Rogers, also from our local area, who is my niece, with my great niece.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. And then we have Mr. Jason Wise. Mr. Jason Wise is here from Illinois. Are you from Chicago, Jason?
Chi-Town, born and raised.
All right,
Chi-Town.
from
Yes.
Chi-Town.
Yes.
So I want to welcome all of you here to the broadcast. Thank you so much for being. Oh, she is so adorable. Welcome to the broadcast, and each one of them each one is an educator, and so I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and just tell us anything you want to share with us. The one thing that I want to you to introduce yourself with is how did you end up in education? What led you to become an educator? And anything else that you would like to say to that, but fold that into your discussion. And so, Crystal, we will start with you. Unmute yourself, dear.
Great. Okay. Hello, everybody. The question, how did I become an educator? Well, as a young person, I knew in my heart that I was going to be a teacher or some sort. I've always been in love with knowledge and love. I used to line my dials up and pass out paper, and I knew I was going to be that person. I was the teacher's pet in elementary school. I loved school. I loved everything about it. I guess I just fell in love with reading. I love books. I just knew I could never see myself doing anything other than being an educator of some sort. So, you know how sometimes you're like, when I grow up, I want to be. I never wanted to, I didn't know. I tried to do something else. I think it was like occupational therapy, and I was like, why am I even trying to do this? Like, it just didn't fit me. So I knew as a young person that that's what I was going to do. So education has always been my path. I actually I have my bachelor's in elementary education from Eastern Michigan University. I received my master's in curriculum and instruction at University of Phoenix, and I also have an administrative cert. I've been in education for the last 17 years. It has definitely changed over time. So it does not look like how it looked in 2003 when I graduated. However, I still don't know what I would be doing if I wasn't doing this. I always go back and forth and say, well, what else could I do? I have no idea. It always leads me back to doing something. And even in my church, I'm the education specialist. So I don't know, but I love it. I can't see myself doing anything else with my life other than what I'm doing now in some form or fashion. Even if I was to leave the traditional role of education, I'm sure I would be doing it in some type of way, shape, or form.
Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Thank you. 17 years, Crystal. It does not seem that long. Wow.
I know, 2003, I was undergrad graduation. So,
Wow.
yeah, and
17
it's been
time.
a long time. I can't believe it.
Look, that's right there. That's a notice for us right there. If you want to do something, do it, because
Yeah.
17 years they've flown by. So
Mhm.
let's not waste time contemplating.
Mhm.
There's this idea of just start doing it. Don't worry about the how. Just
Right.
go on and as you accomplish, then learn that lesson. As you fail, learn that lesson, but just keep moving forward.
Oh, I do want to add one more thing.
Yes,
I
yes.
just recently started my own business, which is called When Grace Speaks LLC. Uh it's a offspring of my whole goal in life. So it's to educate, empower, and to encourage women over the age of 35 who just had children, and also tie in how we can navigate this new life, and also the ins and out of how to do education in a simple form for mothers. So that's what I'm doing now.
So then you might as well introduce your sidekick there, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Brianna Grace Roger. She is almost 2, so she is a teenager. That's what I call her. She is very busy. She thinks she's a teacher, but I love her to death. She is actually, well, of course, that's where When Grace Speaks came from her. Definitely, she gives me a lot of. She gives me. I mean, I asked for patience. He gave me grace. So that's what happens. I love her to death. She's actually teaching me a lot about myself, and in the grace that God has given me to work with her. So that's my sidekick. That's my new broke best friend.
Wonderful. Thank you for being on and bringing grace with you.
No problem.
And bringing grace with you. One of the things that I want, and Crystal, don't even be bothered by. One of the things, beloved, that I want us to understand is Crystal had asked, because when I asked Crystal to be on, she was like, I'm not sure because I'm gonna have a baby, basically. And I was like, no, but this is real. This is part of what we're being faced with COVID-19 realities, with educators being at home. There's some things we can escape from by going into the building, right? But once we're home, and so absolutely leave her on camera. We are having real life education happening tonight. Jason, share with us
Yeah.
your story for being here.
Okay. Well, of course, like I said, my mom, she asked me because we have these conversations all the time. Let me start off. I'm from the city of Chicago. I'm a product of the Chicago public school system. So every level of education was from Chicago. But I think uh, kind of the reason why I got into education kind of came out of a tragedy. Back when I was a kid, there was a young man named Robert Sanderford. And a lot of people know him as Lil Yummy. You'll hear a lot of the rappers talk about him and things like that. And that was during my time of growing up. We would have been the same age right now. And this kid, he made the cover of Time magazine for not for anything positive. It was for being a murderer at 11 years old. And that was my neighborhood growing up. And, my mom was kind of like the block mom. Everybody was invited to my house. Everybody. I mean, whatever was going on a Friday night, we 20 deep going to the movies, those types of things.
Yeah.
So my love for people, came from my mom. And then, it's kind of like the family profession. I got preachers and teachers all in my family. So I definitely embraced the education side. But back to what I was saying, in relation to that tragedy, that kind of birthed my fire to kind of want to be an educator. Back then, when I was young, I was like, yo, I got to do something different. Maybe if Yummy had a mentor, if Yummy had, somebody who was just patient enough with him, to spend a little time, it might be a different outcome. So I've always kept that in my heart. And that's something that I think always drives me to give the young people a second chance. And it's kind of what led me to do special education, because I mean, that's the greatest need in our community. So hopefully I was short enough. I hope I ain't rambling.
No, look. This is you all show. I'm going with what so you don't have to shorten it at all.
Right
I'm trying to make sure. Last time when your mom was on, for some reason I didn't see the Chicago comments. So I was looking on my Facebook page trying to see if I can see it. I know Chicago's in town somewhere online. So just wanted to make sure that I recognize them. So Jason, first of all, your mom is one of my favorite people.
Yeah.
I love me some Devera. And I always call her Devera Wise Robinson.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a lot of people's favorite person. Yes.
Right. She is. When I say she's the life of the party, she's gonna come in.
Yes.
Energy. Oh my goodness. She is the life of the party. And she is a real blessing in my life. So, and then she brought us you. So, and I already am enjoying you. You fit right in. You fit right in. Thank you for your commitment to see a tragedy, to see where there is lack and where there is loss, and then be determined to not go towards it, but to effectively speak to it. And we so in our community need examples. So thank you for that commitment to it. All right. Chioki, Pastor Chioki, talk to us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chioki Bracy. I am the pastor of the Shiloh Deliverance Church, but not on tonight. Tonight, I'm just Chioki, school counselor. What got me to education? It was a combination of getting hustled in God, to be completely honest. My desire for my life has always been to be a professional musician. So I figured my life would be lived out on stages and all those type of things. And I'm grateful that I was able to get some of that in.
Yeah.
God did give me a taste of it. But my journey in education, I went to elementary school with Crystal, but so what happened to me, I was a smart kid in high school, and not necessarily smart because I wanted to be, but more so because I had to be. I remember I wanted to join the wrestling team so bad, and I wrestled. Well, I didn't wrestle. I practiced with the team and everything. I trained the whole nine, and my mom came to bring up my wrestling gear for my first meet, and I had a C on my report card, and she took all my stuff back and made me quit the wrestling team. And honestly, I ain't never forgave her for that because it was only one fee. But so I was that kid. I was the smart kid. I had personality. And so my whole high school career, I never really talked to my high school counselor. And I went in her office the end of my senior year. And what she said pretty much was, she sat me down, she looked at my transcript, and she pretty much said, you're smart and you're black, you should be an engineer because they want more black engineers. And during that time, it was a push for black engineers. Okay. And so she said it, and I was like, yeah, I really want to do music or whatever. But she was like, no, be an engineer. And then my mama got involved, and it sounded good to my mama. And so my mama filled out all my college applications, and I ended up with a full ride plus some money to U of M Dearborn. Now, this is how uninvolved I was. Like, I didn't even know it was more than one U of M. So I thought I was going to Ann Arbor until I pulled up, and it's like, when I go in my dorm, they're like, ain't no dorms. I'm like, oh, ain't no dorms? Like, so, but it was cool because I had way more money. I ended up getting paid to go there. Like, I ended up with an extra $2,000 a semester to go there. But at any rate, I went for mechanical engineering, and I went for 2.5 years. And because of my severe lack of interest, like, the designing portion was cool. Yeah. But all the math, like, I could design a car all day. So if you put me on AutoCAD or CATIA, put me in a computer lab, I can do that all day. I can design them. I can make them look fly. I did not care what they was made out of. I did not care that if you hit it, it will fall apart. Like, I just wanted to design it. So once I got out of the design classes and I got into the hardcore math and science classes, I totally lost interest. I stopped going to class. I ended up being on academic probation and then just ended up not going. So I took 3 years off. Okay. And during those 3 years off, I ended up doing music, doing a lot of production, all that kind of stuff. So that's when I really felt like I lived my life. But I had also felt kind of bad because I had joined the fraternity and all this other stuff. And then I'd be around people, they'd be like, oh, you graduated? I'm like, no, I ain't graduated yet. And I didn't care, but like all my old heads would be constantly on my head, like, you got to graduate, you got to graduate. Yeah. And somebody's finally like, look, just go back for something that you really want to do. So I was like, all right. So I went back, and I was hanging out in the student union one day, and it was a group of kids coming through. And one of the guys was with them, and whoever was supposed to speak to them from admissions or wherever didn't show up. So I'm minding my business, and the guy turns to me. He was like, hey, I need you to talk to these kids. And I'm like, what? He was like, I will pay you to talk to these kids. All right. And then so I just talked to the kids, and I told them basically my story. And then I could see in their faces like a lot of them had the same experience that I had. So then I started working with a lot of the trio programs. So Gear Up, Upward Bound, all of those programs. And then I ended up, working for U of M Dearborn in that capacity. And then I moved to DPS working as a college transitional advisor. And then while I was in the college transitional advisor position, kids were coming to me with real life problems. So it wasn't just, I can't fill out my FAFSA, I can't fill out my FAFSA because my dad isn't in my life. And by the way, my mom beats me. And so like they were presenting real life problems, and I'm looking like around like, y'all supposed to be telling me all this? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I have no idea what to tell you. And then so talking to one of the other counselors, she mentioned, she was like, I noticed all the kids come to you, and like you should look into becoming a counselor. And at that point, I had vowed, like, once I finally graduated and got my degree, that I would never ever go back to school until my bachelor's degree made enough money for me to make up from the little bit of money that I had to spend. I still came out with no debt, but I'm like, all the time and effort I put in, this bachelor's degree needs to pay me like people told me it would pay me when I was in high school. But I felt the unction to go back. I ended up going back. I graduated from the University of Detroit Mercy with a degree in school counseling, a master's degree in school counseling. And now I sit and listen to high school kids' problems all day and help them work through their solutions. So the main thing for me is being able to tell people what I wish somebody would have told me when I was in that position. That's kind of what drives me into counseling. That's kind of what keeps me in the school counseling, because easily I could take my test, get my my LPC, and then do regular counseling. But it's the driving force behind me is like, I want these kids not to make the same mistakes that I made, and that the school system or somebody forge their future based off of what's the hot major at the moment. So that's how I got into counseling, and I've been doing it now for 3 years. I've been a high school counselor, and then I have over 12 years of post-secondary transition experience.
Wow. I gotta be getting older. All these years being added up here, man. Wow, Chioki, that is a journey. That is a journey. It's such a gift to the kids to have someone to talk to, that they feel comfortable and they can just lay it, open it. I wish, I had the mind to show this. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Something, a little clip came across my YouTube, and it this is a little bit of a different subject, but it kind of goes into what you were just talking about, Chioki. But there's a clip that shows a little black boy. He's like walking through the park, just kind of kicking something. Then he sits down at a bus stop, and then it says something along the lines of something about his face or whatever. But at any rate, he walks into what looks like a clinic, and people walk up to him. A woman walks up to him, and everyone's kind of staring at him. And he goes in, and he's looking really, really sad. He's got a big backpack on. And so then the woman calls what looks like the doctor. He's got on a white coat, and they're all, everybody in the video is African American. And the man comes, and he comes down to the little boy's height, bends down, and he looks at him, say, buddy, what's happening? Or, he probably didn't say buddy, but I don't remember what he said. I don't remember what he said. He didn't say buddy, but you know what I mean. So he asked him, what's going on? And I think he said, little man. He said, what's going on? And he said, can you take this off me? So nobody's seen this? Oh my God, this thing is so powerful. He says, can you take this off me? And he lifts up his shirt, and it's a bullseye painted on his stomach.
Wow.
So exactly. That blew me. So I just saw that this morning, like after meditation. I'm like, okay, God. and from that point, I was like, oh God, what I need to do something more. That's when I have those instances. That's what I feel like. And so, Chioki, what it makes me think about in that instance, if you had a little one coming to you, I mean, not you know what I'm saying, the high school. What you're in high school now, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So the high school was coming to you, and it's 2020, America, COVID-19, all these other things, and the family is less connected than it ever has been. Communities are less connected. And so when we think about school age kids, what they have to deal with, they've got to have somebody to talk to, where they can just come and say whatever. And then, we don't go ziggity boom, go like, I'm going to tell somebody. That's nonsense, because then what? Then what are we going to do? We tell them, keep it in, talk to people your own age who only know what you know, or maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. And because we can't be trusted, that does not work. So I just went a long way to say, I applaud you for that. I applaud all of you guys for standing in the gap, for being trusted vessels for young folk to talk to you guys. So the one thing I wanted to talk about is the connection. Now, I thought this was so cool. We're going to have Joy talk in a minute. After we talked about the connection here, I thought this was so cool. So of course, Chioki and Crystal used to live with blocks within within each other street, and they went to the same school, so that's connected. And Chioki and Jason, do you know how you're connected?
No.
You're both alphas.
Okay, that works.
Hey,
That works. That works.
That's a good man right there. First of all, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
When Devera sent me Jason's email address, and she was like, "It's an alpha thing." I was like, "Oh, my son's an alpha. My nephew's an alpha. Yay!" So we're gonna make the connection. I thought that was pretty cool, just the connection of the three of you all.
That's dope.
On the
That's
panel
dope.
tonight, and didn't know each other. All right, JP Creel, we'd like to get you in here. What you got to say to us, girl?
Well, what do I have to say? Basically, my role on this show is to to have a conversation about self-care and how everybody cares for themselves in whatever role it is that they play. As far as being an educator, I am not a full-time educator, but I've spent some time in classrooms over the last 10 years or so. This past year, most recently at Commonwealth Community Development Academy. So I worked with K through 8. So mostly the upper elementary, middle school, so 6th, 7th, 8th grade graders. And I was in the role of an English instructor. So and that happened by mistake. I mean, it was listen, it was on my transcripts that I was qualified for it, and they needed a teacher, and I needed a job. So hey, it worked out.
It worked out.
And it's funny because as each of you were talking about something, as each of you were talking about part of the way that you kind of came to education and that kind of thing, I began to think about how I was connected in education. Also, right now, I'm an adjunct instructor for master's level students, so which is my preference. Adult students are my preference. However, I've definitely spent a lot of time with like that middle school, early high school age students, and I like that age as well. And so was listen to all your stories and all of the places where I worked as an educator. It all came up by some level of coincidence, some level of need. And they're like, "Hey, Joy, can you do this?" And it was kind of filling in a space, and just very grateful for the opportunity to be able to fill those spaces in those times, because one thing that I know for sure is that it's needed. And the other thing that I know for sure is that while my space may not be in, lower elementary or middle school or whatever permanently or anything like that, I know when it's needed, and I know that I would rather be in that space for that time until they find the right person, because I know that I have a heart that cares for the students, for those children. And so it makes a difference to have somebody in the interim who cares, for those children. Because I've seen so many people, so many instructors, so many even school counselors who just should not be in that place. They just should not be there for whatever reason. And so I'm extremely grateful for the opportunities that I've had to be in the classroom, and I've had to be an administrator. I couldn't imagine it. Honestly, I couldn't imagine doing it on a full-time basis, but the spaces where I've had the opportunity to fit in, I mean, they have been sources of joy for me, but they have also been in some ways sources of reality, where I am able to step into this community of all African American children, of all little Black children who literally, if the tides don't switch for them, do you know what I'm saying? If the tides don't swing, if they don't change, if there's not somebody who steps in and says, "Hey, let's go on a little bit further," the future is unsure. And so again, I don't know if I could imagine being in it every single day or anything like that, but I do know that I can't imagine having someone else there who doesn't care and is not, and that's not a fit for them, if you will. So, yeah, so that is how I find myself as an educator. Again, my preference is adult students who want to learn and who are adults and can manage themselves and their behaviors most of the time. that is my
Sometimes.
right.
Yeah. Sometimes.
But
Yeah.
that is my preference. And but again, I enjoy being in a place where I can educate. I am an African American educator, so I enjoy educating African Americans, and that is just my stance on how I feel. So I enjoy being in a space where that is that is the predominant demographic that I serve. Not that I won't serve elsewhere, but that is the predominant demographic that I serve. So
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for stepping in. Thank you for recognizing that there are children who we need to stand in the gap for, whether we're standing in the gap for prayer or whether we're standing in as a temporary teacher or whatever it is, and recognizing in that moment, man, if something doesn't change for them, then the future doesn't look too good. So for that recognition and for us to hold them up. So thank you for all that you do. Okay, so we're going to go to the comments, and I probably shouldn't say this. I don't know, but Al McCann said, "Fi Noop."
Oh, that's nice. That's
I don't
sweet.
know what that
It's
means,
okay.
but
It means he's in a rival gang.
Divine nine. Divine nine. Divine nine. Yeah.
He's in a
Divine
rival
nine.
gang. That's what it means.
which one is he in? Which one is that?
Kappa Alpha Psi.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I won't gang bang because I'm on your Facebook. I'll leave it alone.
Shimmy.
all
Shimmy.
right.
Shimmy.
Also said, amen and thank you, Joy. All right, Al, you trying to start something. We're going to go up to the comments. Minister McCann. Let's pull your other title out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go back to the top and pull up. And Ladiva said, hi, beautiful ladies. Hello, Ladiva. Hello, honey. So good to see you. Al said, and don't say what you won't do. I have a master's in counseling and never wanted to do individual counseling. Yet I have 10 people who expect me to talk to them weekly, and school anxiety is one of them. Brenda says she loved the diverse panel. And Devera, hello, Brenda. Hey, sis. And Devera Wise Robinson said, Chicago, I need you to represent. Say hello. Hello, hello.
Chi-town.
Chi-town. Yes, yes, yes. Andrea says that's it. And we did out. Brenda's got thumbs up. All right, all right. So we looked at the comments. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Here we are in August of 2020. School does not look for you, for anyone, like it did in September of 2019 or July or August of 2019. The landscape has changed. Everywhere the landscape has changed, right? We can pick almost any subject. If you look at businesses, you look at entertainment, you look at churches, you look at retail, you look at the sports, the family life, just family interaction, action. The landscape has changed. And for education, oh my God. So when you think about educating, so let me see, is anyone back in school already? Not yet.
I'm back in the building, so we're doing scheduling and all those things, but the students are not back yet.
Yeah, okay. Planning.
You're planning, Jason?
Yeah.
And Crystal, you guys are not back yet? You're muted, dear.
We are the staff is back, but the students aren't.
Okay. So it sounds like that's common across the board. So when you think about so there are a couple of things that I want to do. I want you guys to talk to educators who are terrified about what's getting ready to happen, right? And you might be one of them, I don't know. But because none of us know what this terrain looks like. But I want you to do that. But also, what are your thoughts about returning to school to educate our children amid COVID-19? What are your thoughts? Jason, let's start with you.
Yeah. Well, I think that first I want to validate anybody's anxieties about what's going on right now. I mean, again, this is a time that we've never seen before. It's two-sided for me. So first I'm going to talk about kind of the negative side of it. The negative side of it is, of course, we don't know what it looks like. And we don't know what it's supposed to look like necessarily. There's a very smart individual I know, and she puts it like this. She says that the teachers are driving the bus while the administration is building the road. And that's kind of the consensus on kind of how people feel about it right now. Nobody really knows what's the best direction to go. It's not the difference between a good decision and a bad decision all the time. Sometimes it's the difference between a good decision and another good decision and another good decision, but both of them seem like the lesser of two evils right now.
Yeah.
And it's very scary. I think one of the positive things that it is doing is it's pushing educators to really kind of be a business within themselves. With the whole remote learning model, if you're the type of person who loves to work in a team, if you're the type of person who loves to touch people and to be around people and to feel vibes, and and if that's how you live your life, it's very hard to do this in a digital world.
Yeah,
it is very hard to do. Speaking from a special educator's perspective, it is very difficult when you have, and I work with students who have mild to moderate disabilities. So sometimes the disability may just be a writing disability, where, the kid can read, he can understand, he can do everything, but there's something about literally putting the pen to the paper and writing his thoughts where there's some kind of a disconnect. And sometimes it is just that simple, and they get special ed services for things like that. But you have other students who may be on the autism spectrum, and they already have some social things about them where it's not really at the level of everyone else. And so the remote learning kind of keeps that divide going on. It's not that every day, I'm having this practice with socializing with people. Now I have to have digital citizenship, as opposed to,
that boy said digital citizenship.
I mean, seriously,
what is that?
Literally, that's what we're teaching the kids. I mean, when we're coming back to school, we are teaching them digital citizenship. First, we are teaching, not only are we teaching the parents the students how to work the Google classrooms and things like that. But sometimes when you think about it, and I'm only speaking from a special educator, a learning behavior specialist, sometimes there are certain disabilities that are genetic. And so not only does the child have a disability, the parent has a disability, the caretaker has a disability. So it's really, how do you service someone like that? How do I take a kid who I know he needs to touch something in order to get this math problem? He needs to physically hold something in his hand and use what we call manipulatives to get this. And I know he can do it. But right now, I can't get him to touch anything physically. You get what I'm saying? So that's kind of the disconnect, at least from my perspective as a special educator. That's kind of the reason why I went into special education, because they are the students with the highest need. Before I was a special educator, I'm sorry, I'm going in.
No, you're good. No, this is good.
But before I was a special educator, I was a dean of discipline for high school. And most of the children who were sent out to me were special ed children.
Wow.
Most of them. And most of them most of them did not even have an academic disability. It was an emotional disability, to whereas they could not physically sit in class and listen to a boring teacher, basically. And so, I mean, I'm just being honest right now.
Yes, please.
And so
do,
they would
do.
literally get kicked out of class or certain classes just so they can come to my office. And it got to the point where I said, man, bring your books, because you can't just sit here with me and talk with me all day because you don't want to go to class. And so that's kind of when the one-on-one started to happen, and I started to understand the need. And I mean, look at it like this. Any kid who comes to school every day, no matter if they're the terror of the school, the fact that most of the terrors in the school got 100% attendance rate. Most of the terrors have 100% attendance rate, if not higher, because if they're not at school, they're not tearing it up. But if they're at school, and the problem is that, you know, in those types of situations, a lot of those kids wind up being special ed, special needs. So we really got to figure out a way how to service them. But my last point is that it starts at home. And I think that a lot of us don't understand as parents. A lot of parents send their kids to school and think they're supposed to learn through osmosis, just from being in the classroom and being around all the stimulus, you know, somehow something's going to stick. And that's just not true. Yeah. It's just not, it's not true.
Yes.
You know, I can be in a room full of, you know, Latin, and Latin can be all on the wall, but that don't mean I'm going to understand how to speak Latin.
Right.
You know, so like I said, I think it starts in the home, and I think we need to get back to the basics on saying, just like with Crystal's baby girl, what should they know at 2? What should they know how to do? Because the learning gap, especially for African-American students, comes in at kindergarten. They come into kindergarten barely learning. Some of us don't know how to hold a pencil. Some of us cannot recognize the numbers 1 through 10. Some of us cannot even recognize the letters in our own name by kindergarten. And there are other ethnic groups that are blowing us out of the water simply because we're not coming into the public system ready to go. So we're spending 2 to 3 years trying to catch up. And so by 3rd grade, we haven't learned those basic skills, and everybody else is taking off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sorry. That's my bit.
Yeah. You dropped some gems, man. Did you drop some gems from the genetic connection that you may not even think about, that is there. And so when we think about, the model is that parents are to help their children with whatever it is that the school sends them home with. But what happens now, we understand that there are some parents who can't do the new math.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Like that's usually what you're talking.
Yeah,
I was an engineering student. I took Calc 3, and I can't do the new math.
Yeah, and we get that. You get that, but what I really mean to speak to, not that stuff. What I mean to speak to is you got 1st and 2nd graders failing math because they can't tell time.
Yes.
We shouldn't wait for the school to teach them how to tell time.
Yes. And that's exactly, and that's what I heard. I heard what you were getting at.
Yeah.
Typically, we think about it in the sense of the new math, but we don't think about it in the other, just the normal behavior that we anticipate adults have already successfully navigated it.
Absolutely.
And so if they haven't, then what's the chances of helping their children? And on top of that, if they still struggle with like ego formation, then they're not going to be able to tell their child that they can't. Yeah. They're going to dismiss them or in some way make it their child's fault if they can't get that off of them. So Jason, thank you for taking us. No, it was really beneficial. It was rich. So thank you for giving us that insight. And you said so many things. I like the positive piece in that you said, hey, now is the time for you, in a sense, to reinvent yourself and to make yourself relevant. I wrote it down, but I don't know the way that you said it. But you talked about basically the playing field is open. I mean, it's open and available, and any of us now can decide that we're going to make our mark. And so maybe we didn't like technology or didn't want to do. It's not the way that we did it, but it's here, so we've got to figure it out. The other piece that you said that we know, like, how do we do the absence of touch thing? You see, and how do you bridge that gap for the group that already has social limitations in their ability to engage socially? So there are lots that's there for us. Crystal, what are your thoughts to this
Okay. Great word, Jason. So, just to piggyback off of Jason, one of my coworkers said to us yesterday that we are building the plane while we're trying to fly it. And I feel just like what you just said. We don't, I mean, it's a new world for all educators, for parents, for students, for anyone that's living. What I do want to say that COVID-19 did, and the one positive thing is that it brought value back to where education is.
Absolutely.
As an educator, I used to always hate, and none of my family used to say it to me personally, but you used to always hear, you're just a teacher. You may not, you're just a teacher, or you're just this, or, I've never personally heard it, but the valuable part of the teacher is priceless right now. And I think that's the part that it's kind of like a catch-22. It's almost bittersweet, because at the price of COVID, now you value what's important. Because now the experts are at home. However, the parents have to be experts as well. So I'll be honest, one time I was in a classroom a couple of years ago, and I'll never forget, I had to call, and I was one of those teachers where if I had to call a parent on you was horrible, because I could control, that was the last thing, because I really tried not to. And one day, this particular parent told me, he's yours from 8 to 3. I'm at work. Y'all work that out. And so, to be honest, I feel like, when they give you Johnny, and Johnny pack his backpack and his lunchbox, they're giving you their best. Whatever's coming from their house, that's the best that they have. And all that, you're going to deal with that. But at this point, parents have to deal with that now. And they have to deal with the whole child. They have to feel like what we feel. And you think about it, I have to tell my friends, you only have one kid at home. Think about the teacher who has a class of 25 to 35, depending on what district you're in. You have 35 different families. You have 35 different everything connected to that. And so I feel like the COVID-19 has brought back the value of a real educator and their importance to the world. And I feel like that. And it's kind of bittersweet. It's almost sad, because it's like we had to have a pandemic to express the gratitude for teachers. And then they, not just teachers, but education in general. However, the anxiety for an educator that has to go back into the building, it's real. And our building alone, we've had people taking off FMLA. They are having anxiety attacks. The only reason I haven't went crazy is because I trust God, and I know that. But it's a daily fight, because at the end of the day, I love my students. I love our students. I believe in education, but I didn't sign up to protect and serve. I signed up to educate.
That's it.
And so at the end of the day, I have a daughter, for one, who was very sick all last year. And to be honest, I think she probably had COVID-19, if you think about it. But at what cost do I have to say I need to, in order for me to save your kid, I have to sacrifice mine. So, it's a battle between, your own conscience and what you want for your family. And then a lot of people say, well, teachers, you should do this. You should be able to do this. You should be able to do that. But a lot of times educators already sacrifice so much. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all the schools already take from the education pool. You take money, you take. And teachers are one of those professions, or educators, I would say, is one of those professions that is a service to you. This is a calling. You don't do this because you want to. You don't do this because it's easy, because you're going to get fortune. You do this because at the end of the day, you have a heart for love for education and children. The real fear is that we don't know what this virus is capable of doing. So at our building, people are stressed out. They are scared. And I work in a population where we have a language barrier. So it's a lot of parents who not just don't understand the technology, they don't even understand the language. Their children translate for them, so to be able to say you have to stay at home now and you have to do this when that's a whole other world, you know. And as far as the population that I interact with is the pieces of the kids who struggle anyway. So if I'm struggling at school with all of the support and you're sending me to school and I'm still struggling, now I'm stuck at home, like Jason said, with a parent who still struggles. How can they help me? You know, and it's really, I don't know what the solution is, but I know what, you know, it's like you said, it's a decision, and another decision. And then everything changes so fast. So the governor could say next week that we back all the way at home, you know. So we have so many different scenarios. So one district is open face to face, one district is virtual, one district is hybrid, one is both. I mean, it's so many moving pieces. It's almost like, you know, it's like a chicken with its head cut off. You don't know what's happening from day to day. And I think that's the frustration level, because as an educator, we supposed to go in front of these kids and think like we got it together, but we are falling apart at the seams. I'm one of those people that every day I pray, I trust God, but it is a struggle because I'm like, do I really want to do this? I've had that conversation with my husband, like, do I really want to sacrifice that? Because it's a risk that we're taking, and I understand that, but it's so many levels to it, because now parents are, you know, they're given the task, the mandate to educate, so they have to become the experts, and they feel the pain, and I understand it, you know. But I do think COVID brought back the value of what we bring every day to the education world.
Thank you, Krista. Yeah, we are unfortunately one of the countries who don't value the industry that basically feeds every industry.
Absolutely.
We feed every industry, and we are one of the countries that do not value that. And it's absolutely insane. And so Crystal dropped for a minute, but she really said so bringing the value back to education, and it is bittersweet. Like, it took a pandemic for people, unfortunately, for parents to know, to get a sense of what is it like to have to try to keep a child focused and moving on to the next. So absolutely. You're back. You made it back with us. Okay. Thank you, Crystal. Chioki, what are your thoughts along this line?
You know, it's an interesting time for me because my struggle now has not really changed from my struggle with education, period.
Okay.
Especially at a secondary level and a few other levels. And my issue is that they're giving the example that the administrators are building the road while the teachers are driving the bus, or they're building the plane while trying to fly the plane at the same time. And my thing is that you're trying to build a road, and there are people there who are civil engineers, and instead of consulting them, you just out here building all willy-nilly. And you're doing it. I give you can be doing the best that you can, but you building all willy-nilly. So when you're creating these plans to come back to school and how you're going to handle this, it's people that are in a room that are making these decisions who are not in the school.
Yeah.
So right now, I have y'all up on my laptop. And then so I can read comments, I have my phone sitting next to me.
Yeah.
Whatever I say here is seconds lagging to my phone.
Yeah.
And what you have is people who are sitting in a room and that information is lagging, but instead of looking at what's going on right now, they're catching the tail end. So you're making plans to come back to school, but you aren't involving any of the teachers in this plan. You're making crisis team things, but you're not talking to the counselors and crisis specialists in the building. So you make this plan, and then when I finally come in and I look at your plan, I'm like, this ain't gonna work. And you like, yes, it's gonna work. I'm like, it's not. And then now I have to wait to a certain degree till it all falls apart for you to come be like, Chioki, you were right. What do you suggest we do? Like that's the part that's getting me. I think there should be, in order for this to work, it has to be collaboration on all levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We can't leave the plan solely up to administrators, because although to be an administrator, you have to have some past experience. Most administrators are way past those experience years of being in a classroom or being in front of students. So they're not as apt to know what it's like, or those struggles, simple things as, I deal a lot in the beginning of the year with scheduling, and so the previous semester, the kids scheduled. So of course, all the boys want to take 5 gym classes. But now you go virtual. How you gonna do 5 gym classes virtually? So, and now it's schedule conflicts and all those things. So I think in order for it to work, number one, everybody has to have some degree of fluidness. You have to be fluid. And to help deal with the anxiety, you have to be present in the moment that you are in. You have to be mindful. Like, you have to, this is what I can tackle today. And I have to be okay if it's going to change tomorrow. Like I was doing, and scheduling is like the most basic part of my job. But because of what's going on, like it's been more major now than it has been. So like I had to go into work knowing out of my 300 students that I'm scheduling and doing this jigsaw puzzle and making sure this fits and fits and fits, that the language specialist might call in tomorrow and say, oh, well, we have 10 kids that are coming in from Bangladesh. And so now I have to move 10 kids from this class to put them in this class. So everything that I put together yesterday, I have to blow it up to insert these new kids and make it fit. And if you're not fluid, and if you aren't present in a moment, and you always worry about, or if you allow your mind to take you to a place where your worry of tomorrow overrides what you're facing today, then you'll always be in that mode of anxiety. You'll always be anxious. You'll always be worried. You'll always feel like nothing you're doing is worth it. You'll always feel like stuff is going to fall apart. So like my thing is just to be present and get as much information you can. I would encourage administrators, talk to your teachers, talk to your special ed specialists, talk to your counselors, talk to the janitors, talk to whoever you got to talk to get a comprehensive plan, to get the point of view of somebody that's actually in the field. And then lastly, like, you picked this career field for a reason. There was something unique about you that got you hired. Be the unique person that you are in this moment, because there's no better way to be than unique in a unique situation. Everything is up in the air. So you can be whatever you want to be. Like, if you have to reinvent yourself, then do that. Like, I'm calling my parents now. And when they talk to me, Mr. Bracey, do you know? I have no idea. So we're going to have to tread this water together until we figure out something, because my uniqueness is blunt honesty. Like, I know that some people sat in the room and they crafted out this letter, and I'm going to refer you to the letter because that's what I'm supposed to do. But most of all, I'm going to tell you the truth, because that letter 9 times out of 10 is kind of vague and might have some lies in it. And then when it blows up, you coming back to me and looking at me like I'm crazy. You're not going to look at Chiki like he's crazy. Like, this is what it is. Ma'am, I don't know what's going on. This is what I know today. We're going to go day by day, and then we'll keep pushing until we get out of this situation, until we get to a more stable ground. But I think too many people are trying to come up with concrete answers for a situation that's fluid. You will drag yourself into the ground trying to say, yeah, this is the plan that's going to work, when you do not know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I think being fluid is like one of the main things that we'll need in order to navigate this time. And then whatever it is that you do well, keep doing that. Just do what you do well, and somehow that'll fit. And if everybody does what they do well, then that means everything generally should be covered. Hopefully in your building or your school district or whatever, if everybody does what they are great at, then those things should fit. And then lastly, this is not a problem I have necessarily in my district, but I think districts need to seriously take into account that the people that work in their building are not only professionals, but they're people.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm teaching somebody else's kids.
Mm-hmm.
I got to worry about who's teaching my kid.
Yeah.
Because while I'm here, my
Yeah.
kid is at home.
Yeah.
Or I know a friend of mine, she's in a district where her district is not offering any type of childcare. And they basically told them, like, take a leave of absence.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
How does that work? Like, you know, all of those things. And I think the priorities need to be kind of set, and things can be shifted. Like, I know a district that like got all new clocks and all this new stuff, and like they still planning on building like a new gym. Like, build a new gym for what? You laying people off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pay these people so they can help and do things.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying, and do that. So I think it really has to be a shift mindset where I need to do what's best for everybody as much as I can, and move the priorities around.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Fluidity and being present, being mindful. Those are the two major pieces that I take from what you said. It's so important. It's what Crystal alluded to when she said that the governor can say something and everything would change in the moment. Like in the very next day, it will change. And I've been looking at her executive orders, Crystal, and watching her live, you know, where she gives her reports. And sure enough, she's making adjustments as things happen. So what you're saying, Chioki, is right on point. Is the absolute necessity for us to be able to be fluid and to and be present. And so to avoid the anxiety, let's deal with what's in front of us right now. And then, you know, as tomorrow comes, we deal with that. So you really brought some powerful pieces. You said tomorrow over.
I said digital citizenship.
Bring Jason back in so Chioki can say, "Hey, Jason, yay!"
Yeah. It kicked me out here.
I was trying to pull back my writing, something that Chioki said. I said, and you said, and then Chioki, you said, tell Jason what you said.
I said digital citizenship.
Yes, absolutely. Digital citizenship.
He likes that term, Jason.
Hey,
he likes that term.
That's a real thing. That's a real thing. I wanted to Chioki, I wanted to agree with something that you were saying though, man. I think you're absolutely right, man. I think now is the time that whatever you do, you need to really go back and kind of hone in on your reason for actually being in the profession. One of the things that I heard you say is that you have people coming to you, asking you seriously, yo, Mr. Bracy, what's this and what's that? And the fact that you've established yourself as a professional in the education field, I mean, just for an example, I think of myself in the same way I think of a doctor. There's no way I'm going into a hospital asking any of the staff in there, they're a nurse, and I ask them, nurse, what does this chart say? I don't believe for a second that if that's a nurse, she's going to give me bad information. Mm-hmm. I just don't believe it walking into any medical facility. Mm-hmm. And so in that same light, kind of what I was saying to you, they're coming to you as that professional. They're asking you as a professional, as a counselor, what do you think? And I think that you're doing a great thing by letting them know, I don't know, but I'm going to walk with you. Yeah. And I think that that's just speaking to what's going on in our society right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. Nobody really knows who to trust. There's information overload. And a lot of it, you know, we're dealing with this reality TV generation, you know, is what you see, you know, it's all right there. And so sometimes the soup, you know, of all of this information, we're trying to sit back and let it clear. A lot of times we like to sit back and, okay, let me let the water clear real quick so I can see what's the real information. But in this COVID situation, we have an unpredictable enemy. That it is unpredictable. There is no way we can truly plan and truly solidify exactly what we're going to, and it's a scary thing. But again, like I said, I think now the time is to establish yourself as a professional. Establish yourself as someone who can be trusted, because that is what the community is going to need. The school is the melting pot of the community. Whatever's going on in that community, trust me, it's at the school. And so if you separate yourself, that teacher got to know I'm not your friend. That's a professional right there. I can go to them for help. If they know that, we're doing our job. We're definitely doing our job. So I just wanted to piggyback on what you said. And I think that that's very important for people to understand that, you know, stand up as a professional, even though we don't necessarily know what to do. A doctor may not always, doctors practice medicine.
Yeah.
They practice.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Yeah.
We practice education.
Yeah.
So in the same light, we still got to know what's going on though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just piggyback off what Jason said?
Mm-hmm.
I used to say that all the time, that education is one of the professions where people always thought that they can do our job. You're not going to walk into a hospital and tell the doctor what you're going to do to me. But as a parent or a lawmaker or anybody else who's not in the field, they always think that they could come into the education field and tell the educator, who is the trained expert, how you gonna operate. You're not gonna tell your heart surgeon how you gonna do my surgery. You're not gonna do that. But I think now everyone is looking at the educators to tell the world how we're gonna do this. But all the time they've been telling us how we gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then people are making laws for education that's not even educators. So, it's just, I really agree with you when you said that, Jason. Like, doctors practice medicine, but they respect doctors. They respect dentists. They respect cardiologists. They respect their field. They respect attorneys and lawyers. And they say, well, what did the doctor say? The doctor say take three pills a day. You're gonna take 3 pills a day. But if your kid come up, which I don't care what the teacher said. I don't care what they say up there. I'm going to go up to that school. We've been disrespected for so long, but now we're needed. And I'm not saying it's bittersweet, because I don't want to be needed in the pandemic, but it's almost like a abusive relationship. It's like an abusive relationship. So now you like, oh, I did you so wrong for so many years, but now I love you. I need you. I need you to do this. I need you to come home. And I feel like that's how teachers feel, because we're still getting abused. I know situations personally where teachers have been taking leave because they are not being provided childcare. Okay, because I have a toddler, I don't want to bring my toddler into the building to teach virtually, because that's my choice. But because I have to cut my arm off to feed your child, I need to take FMLA, because there's no concern for me, and I feel like I don't know the answer, but I know what's not the answer, because everyone is in this fight together. And I think flexibility, everything may not look fair and it may not look equal, but you have to be able to be, you need to be concerned with everyone individual situations. And I think this pandemic is putting everybody on a level playing field. Everybody is don't know what we're doing. The doctors don't know, the teachers don't know, the lawyers don't know. Everybody, a lot of people was on unemployment. Even the richest is not as rich as they used to be. So, I just don't know. I really feel what you said, Jason. I appreciate that, because everybody practice medicine, but you go into you put on a white coat, you automatically get respect. Automatically.
Absolutely. And there was one more, I'm sorry to keep joining, but there's something else you said about it, with the mindset. A lot of times, let's just be honest. What you remember about school, you don't remember necessarily learning fractions. You remember the experience you had. School is about the experience. And there are a lot of people who have very different school experiences. You get what I'm saying? And so a lot of times we as teachers, we're fighting with somebody, not the kid, we're fighting with their parents' experience. Because the parents are sending their kid to school, tell them, okay, I know what that teacher say, but I know how them teachers is. Whatever they say, don't listen to them. Just call me on my phone right then and there. Knowing that kid ain't supposed to have no phone in class. But their mama done told them, hey, call me right then and there. Don't listen to what. And you got those types of things going on. A lot of parents got to let the kids have their own experience. They got to let the kids have their own experience. Don't put your experience on the kid, you know, because it's new for them. And in the same token, we as educators, if they don't remember, standard 4, you know, if they don't remember standard 3, you know, what they're gonna remember, Mr. Bracy was a great teacher. They're gonna remember, okay, Miss Joy was a great teacher. They're gonna remember, hey, every morning we had a talk. Every afternoon we had a talk. They're gonna remember, hey, every day at 8 a.m. I can catch my teacher here. And they grow to count on that. And I think that that's so important. Just I know we don't know what's going on, but I don't want people to lose hope that they're not still things that we can do to show structure. And the structure that we already have is one, we're professionals. I know in Illinois, I tell people I am a state licensed educator. I'm licensed from the state of Illinois to do what I do. I am a professional. And I want people to acknowledge it. And when people come to me, I want them to understand that I'm here to help. And there's structures in place. We just have to be the professionals. We have to provide the experience for them. And we have to anticipate who's coming into our classroom. And all we got to do is look at the community and we'll see exactly who's coming into our classroom. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, and I was gonna say one of the things. Well, y'all done said a lot, but and I was like trying not to jump in.
Yeah.
But one of the things that just want to kind of hone in on is how this society that we live in, and we are society, right? But how the society doesn't honor children and it doesn't honor family.
Yeah.
And based on what you all are talking about, like, you know, you got to go to school, but do you take your kids, or do you why is this a choice that we have to make? Like, we got people having Zoom meetings because we got a social distance, but we want to send kids back into schools, right? Like, and I get why some kids need to go back to school. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, some of the things that Mr. Wise talked about as far as, you know, the students who need to have that textile feel, the students who need to touch to learn and to be equipped and all of that. And I can hear that, but I also understand the risk that is involved because here's the thing, like, we send our kids in because they need it or whatever the case is, or because we don't have another option. But why is there not another option? And why and those, especially when we talk about our inner city schools, and we talk about schools that are under whatever the case is. And one of the ways that schools are funded is by attendance and all of that, right? And so, well, not one, the way that schools are funded is by attendance. Oh, okay. So now we're going back to school. Some schools are making this choice to go back to school for attendance purposes so that they can get funds. Oh, okay. Like, you know what I mean? But the reason that we're doing it, it dishonors the children. It dishonors the family unit. It dishonors this community that we're talking about. It dishonors that very thing. And it's unfortunate because when we look at how our community is and when we look at how our society is, it is the children who are going to not benefit from it. Like, it's the children who are going to have to claw their ways back up, themselves back up. And what Mr. Wise said, that point he made about like the parents who already, like, outside of a pandemic is like defying all of the rules and all of the teachers is wrong and all of this, whatever the case is, like, how much different is that going to be inside of, you know, kids only at school 2 days a week this time? Like, how is that going to work? And I just know, like, in a perfect world, if you would, like, if we could honor our family systems, if we could honor if we can honor school, you know, the children, and make sure that they have what they need. I mean, things like internet, because here's the thing, we can't go virtual when kids don't have internet. Kids don't have internet, and we want to. So I saw this with my own eyes at the beginning, or I mean, I guess it was towards the end of the school year, but at the beginning of the pandemic, where you know, children don't have internet access, so to speak. So they don't have internet access, so they got these huge packets to work on over the summer. Like really, like do we
Yeah.
we think for 1 minute those kids took those packets and looked through those packets? Because I don't. Like I do not. But we don't do things like internet. Not internet in this country is considered a luxury. But how when everybody uses the internet the way that we use it? Like if nothing that this pandemic should have taught us is that the internet isn't a luxury as much as it is a necessity,
utility.
right? It's a utility. It is a utility, and so we don't serve the children in that way. Anyways, so all of that.
Yeah. all that.
So it is. I think it's imperative that we honor people wherever they are. And
Absolutely.
for me, that's that self-care piece. That is the self-care piece, is when we can honor people no matter where they are, no matter what I'm gonna say, no matter what situation they're in or whatever the case is, because at the end of the day, like, we don't know what battle people are fighting.
Absolutely.
Including the instructors, including the teachers. Because if I have to come to school and I have little ones at home, like every day that I come in, it's an anxiety attack because I don't want to bring this stuff back into my house. Like we got to go home and do a desanitation, do a sanitation, disinfecting routine, as if like you know we dealing with radioactive goop or something. You know what I mean? Like but this is what we have to do in order to keep our family safe. And so I think one of the things that we can do to be sensitive in this situation, whether it's on the side of the educator or the school or the child or whatever the case is honor whatever decision people are making. Like we can't place judgment on people for sending their kids back to school because we don't know why they're sending their kids back to school. Because when I was serving at that school last year, like I got there at 7-something in the morning a few times, and kids coming in like hungry, like they like starving, trying to get to the breakfast table, and then we wondering why, and then we give them sugar-induced cereal with sugar-induced milk, and then wonder why they sleeping by second hour, like because they on the down spiral. You know what I'm saying? But if we can honor where people are and why they make the decisions that they feel like is best, I think like that is one of the primary things that we can do on all sides. I think that's one of the primary things that we can do on all sides.
Absolutely.
And so I hope, and I admonish you all as instructors, as teachers, as counselors, as whatever you're doing in the system, to take care of yourselves. I had to swing that into what I'm here for because I feel like I was off. But to take care of yourselves and make whatever decision it is that you have to make to be comfortable. And because your well-being is the most important thing in this situation. First of all, if they don't have an instructor, they can't, an instructor or a counselor or whatever it is that our position is in these roles. If they don't have that, if we're not healthy, they don't have that.
Absolutely.
But besides that, if we're not healthy, our families don't have the role that we play in our families. If we don't have that, the church doesn't have the role that we play in our churches. The community doesn't have the role that we play in our communities. So I admonish you all as much as you can, amidst all of everything that's going on, to make sure that you make your health a priority, and not just your physical self, but your mental health.
Absolutely.
Because I can't imagine waking up and just wondering, and that may be a day I got to call in because I can't do it today. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, and honor that space where you are, honor that space where you are. So we're going to go to the comments. I think we're about to go to the comments. Dr. James put in, I'm not sure what we're about to do. That's all I got.
Like way over time. So what I want to do is kind of condense, because we've got, the comments have been blowing up. But I want to honor our guest time. There was a comment early on where Devera said, "That's my son." I wanted to pick that one out for sure. That's my son.
That's my mom. Yeah.
And Al talked about the digital citizenship. They picked that one up. We've got there was some preaching. She preaching, he teaching. Charles said, "You can hear the passion he has. Keep it up. They definitely need that." Charles Mitchell saying that. Chioki, Al said, "I can't raise my hand. I can raise my hand. I cannot do Common Core math." Clarissa, when Crystal was talking, Clarissa was going, girl, it's sad as Clarissa was sharing. Kids spend the majority of their waking hours with their teachers. Teachers deserve honor just based on that. There was definitely some comments where they were saying that they really appreciated you. I know Kiki at Jaquila had picked up a couple of them and just said, I'm not ready for this school year. I applaud teachers. Y'all have my respect. Brenda said, I have so much respect for you all. And then Kiki said, Lord, give them patience to deal with Aiden during this school year. It's hard to get them to sit down and watch a full movie he picked out, let alone sit in front of a computer for 8 hours. She sums it up. And so there's so many. Debbie says, this is awesome. To know that I am not the only one with a million decisions to make in my head. And it was so much. Brenda did a long one. Al did one where he really went into some narrative. You guys go back. He talked about the learning gap and having to struggle to be with children and and deal with that. So guys, this has been such a life-giving conversation. God always knows what he's doing when he brings people together to just have a conversation. And it went way beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And my whole goal is for us to have relevant conversations in a now time that we can all be heard, be seen, get our needs met to the degree possible, speak our truth, and that we can walk away with life from a conversation. Right. So I just want to thank you, Chioki, for agreeing and being here with me tonight.
My bro. Yes,
thank you, Crystal. Thank you, my dear, for being here and bringing.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so grateful that you didn't bail out because it's real. It's right now. It's what's happening. Right. Jason, thank you. You. Your conversation, your passion, added so much. And this won't be the last time. I already feel connected. And so thank you. Joy.
My pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Joy, as usual, thank you for doing all that you do behind the scenes and in front of the scenes and making sure that we stay connected with our self-care. So I so appreciate you guys. And we went over and there was nowhere to dive in, but I'm so grateful that we were able to have this very rich, in-depth, relevant conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you to our guests, to our audience. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. It was just it's so rich and there's so many comments. We weren't able to get to all of them. LL said, hey, y'all. Yes, thank you so much. And I'm inviting you guys to go back and look at those comments. They are so rich. And so, beloved, I just really want to thank you for your engagement. Thank you for your time. Time is it's one of the things in life we don't get more of. So I'm grateful to Chioki. I'm grateful to Crystal. I'm grateful to Jason that they took time out to share from their expertise, for them being the professional that they are, from them being the licensed professional in Michigan and in Illinois. And I'm grateful to Joy for her time. I'm grateful to each of you that you spent time with us. I am Dr. Catherine E. James. I've been put on this earth to help people live their potential. And that crosses all industries, all areas of life. Look, if you've been called to, Chioki mentioned it and Jason piggybacked on it, walk out purpose, walk out destiny. We all have purpose and destiny to fulfill. Go find your lane, stay in your lane. Don't worry about anybody else's lane or what somebody else is saying that you ought to be. What is it that's in your heart? What is it, the breath that God has given you to walk out and to live? Do that, beloved. And if you need help doing that, perhaps I'm the person to help you. Visit Dr. Catherine E. James and we'll see if there's a relationship we can form. I am a life coach, but I'm not everybody's coach. I'm a transformational coach, but not for everybody, but for somebody's. Beloved, at the moment that Abba gave you his breath, guess what? You forfeited the right to not be amazing. You are amazing, an unrepeatable, remarkable miracle with your own special brand of brilliance. You are. Sometimes we don't know we're amazing. I've been put on this earth to tell you, you're absolutely unequivocally, undeniably amazing. Have a great, phenomenal evening. We'll talk soon. Blessings.